Good morning, good people. Mr. Fields here, Talk Time Episode 3. Wow, time is flying. First things first, I have switched from showing my shoes to hats. So it's a little bit easier for me to just put one on. Hopefully it'll actually match with what I'm wearing. And I can still keep your attention, hopefully, as I go through these lessons. So let me show you my shoes from the first few days. This is from episode 1. These wonderful Vans. I actually put them in the washing machine, looking a little dusty, but they're very old, so I'm glad they look this good. Second pair of shoes are these Kohans. I actually felt a little dressy sneak type thing. And third shoes today, the last shoes. These are probably my favorite. They're so comfortable. And the light is on, so it's nice and shiny and all that good stuff. So those are my shoes. This is my hat. And now time to just share a little bit about things that I found helpful. So I thought maybe I could share this with you guys. Maybe you can help. It will be useful to help you in your classwork or even your homework, like the stuff that you have to do to help clean up and what have you. So I have created an activity tracker. I got the idea from a friend, and you can do something that's much less in depth than this. But activities go down this way, and days of the week go this way. And then I can write how much time I spent on all the things. Or I can be just very simple and put a check. Okay, I did my teaching for today. Check. All right. Also, let me show you. I put times in here because on certain days I need to teach. Monday through Friday, I need to be there 10 to 2. So that's when I'm available, good people. But also on Monday and Wednesday are my Zoom classes. So I wanted to make sure not to forget those. So just wanted to introduce this to you. You'll see my activities down the side are teaching, youth ministry, social presence. I mean, I gotta get on the gram. I gotta say hey to my people on Facebook. Walk, run, push-ups, bike ride. So as you see, these are all like workout stuffs. I may do them all in one day. I may not. Then I have prayer time, journal, poetry, creativity. So these are like spiritual and like fun, creative things. And lastly, I have rest. I don't want my whole day to be just full of everything. So I need to make sure I have time to just sit and reply to text messages or something like that. So I wanted to share this with you. Also wanted to share a YouTube video. You may or may not be such fans of the rapper known as Black Thought, the frontman for the Roots crew. But maybe your parents are. But I wanted to share this. Black Thought of the Roots Tiny Desk Home concert. Okay? So I just took a screenshot of YouTube. I really enjoyed this mainly because the second song, so the first song comes out and he's talking about a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm like, dang, I need to rewind this. The second song, before it starts, he gives a description. And he actually says that the second song was inspired by a book called Black No More by George Schuler. So this is a black man writing a science fiction book about a doctor who creates a serum and like a medicine and is not black anymore. So it's inspired by books, yay reading, and Questlove like gives his own take on that. So just wanted to share, really enjoyed about that. Now, I would like to teach a quick lesson via this video. Let's see if it'll work. You guys give me your feedback and let me know, okay? So first things first, I want to introduce our goals for today. So for our learning target is I can determine a theme or central idea of a poem and how it is conveyed through particular details, especially figurative language. We're going to focus on figurative language today. Our do now, what is figurative language? What is literal language? I'm going to read some poems and hopefully you'll be able to find the difference between the two, figurative language and literal language. And then let me just show this to you while we have it here. Our lesson, we're only going to focus on 4 of our figurative languages, okay? 4 examples of figurative language: metaphor, simile, extended metaphor, and personification. I hope you guys remember what those are. If you don't, I'm going to make sure to give you definitions and share examples. And then the last part, now you try. Okay? Excellent. Do now. Figurative language is, I have a definition here. Figurative language is when you use a word or phrase that does not have its normal, everyday, literal meaning. Okay, so there are 2 things, figurative language and literal language, like it literally happened. Figurative language is like I have to figure out if it actually happened. So I want to give an example of literal language from this book. This book is by Clint Smith. He is he's in a PhD program, so he's working to get his doctorate in education at the Harvard Grad School of Education. So I met him there. Dope dude, has a beautiful family, newborn kid, married, all that good stuff. And the poem I want to read for you today to give you an example of literal language is Today I Bought a Book for You. Okay, I do not own the rights for this book. I suggest you buy it if you like it. Even if you don't like it, support a brother. But I wanted to make sure that you guys understand what literal language and figurative language is. The last thing I'll say before I read this poem is a lot of time we get lost in the figurative language. There's so much figurative language that we don't know what happened in the actual story. Okay, the story of the poem. This one should be very easy to follow. It's very literal. Okay, so this stuff probably literally happened. Okay, today I bought a book for you. It wasn't one I had ever heard of, but the first page had your favorite word, and that was enough for me to unfold the dollar bills from my pocket. I remember the first time you told me what it meant. I wrote it down in my notebook with the hopes of using it later to impress you. I have a notebook full of these. It should come as no surprise I have always used words to try and convince the world that I am worth something. Okay, today I bought a book from you, a book for you. You can imagine that everything that happened, it's like a little movie. It plays out. There's no, books flying off the shelves and having conversations with people, or octopus in the mall where the bookstore is. This happened. I'm telling the story in order. All right, cool. The next poem I want to read is called My Father is an Oyster. Okay, you'll see there's some description of what exactly an oyster is, and then it gets deeper into the figurative language. I want you to imagine when the magic part starts to happen, or when the, hey, this probably didn't happen in real life starts. All right, my father is an oyster. In New Orleans, seafood is as much a part of life as changing tides. I was raised between shrimp etouffee and fried catfish. Learned to walk on crab legs, and was baptized in a pot of crawfish before I ever knew what one was. Still, I was always disgusted by the oysters. But my dad loved them, said that the zinc in the meat was good for your hair, and that if I had seen the hairlines of the men on my mama's side of the family, I'd better start eating up. I would later learn that an oyster's pearls are formed from foreign parasites that have breached the boundaries of its shell. To protect itself from the danger, the oyster cocoons the substance in coats of calcium until the very thing that is trying to destroy it becomes the thing that makes it most beautiful. Mother Nature has a funny way of teaching us. Last summer, while visiting home, I went to check on my dad to see if he knew the score of the game. When I opened the door to his bedroom, I saw him lying on the ground like a broken promise, genuflecting in front of a prayer. My father held his stomach, as if he had been stabbed by the very person entrusted to protect him. Betrayal has never been so silent. There is no treason like that of your own body turning against itself. Benedict Arnold with a bayonet in your bloodstream. Judas kissing your kidneys goodbye for 30 pieces of silver. Chronic kidney disease is a deep sea diving with no oxygen. Drowning underwater, waiting for a transplant to bring you back to the surface. This is about halfway through the poem, and he says the name of the poem one more time. But my father is an oyster. Wears a shell hardened by growing up in a place where expectations never rose above low tide. He was raised by a coral reef of a mother who had the echo of an unborn ocean on her breath. Taught him that when the waves of this world try to wear you down, it's okay. We are all a little bit weathered. If an oyster can turn a parasite into a pearl, then it is no surprise that my father can turn a kidney into calligraphy. That means fancy writing. When I was 13 and he was first diagnosed, he wrote me a 15-page letter saying that if anything happened, I had to be ready to become the man of the house. Clint, though it hasn't always looked like it, I've always put God first. I know you complain because Clinton Ward Smith III makes it sound like you're the heir to a British monarchy, but never doubt you are a king. Understand that I gave you your grandfather's name because the most sacred things I have ever known come in trinities. Clint, I love your mother like a stained glass window in a war zone. She can be both shield and shard, both weapon and protection. Treat every woman like you would want a man to treat your sister. This ocean already has enough sharks. Clint, don't be another shark. My father is an oyster. He clamps down tightly on the things that he loves the most, his family and his God. He has a calcium-encrusted heart cradled tightly in his chest, bears scars worn from the waves that have tried to erode him of this world. My father is an oyster. I pray that when he is pulled from this ocean, those who live above the surface see the brilliance of his pearls. All right? So can you tell the times where it felt a little bit make-believe? Even saying my father is an ocean. That is an example of one of our types of figurative language. All right. It's already been 11 minutes. I want to tell you guys a few more quick things, and then it's time for us to do our own work. All right, so I have a quote here for you just to kind of get us back into poetry. What is poetry? And why has it been around so long? When you really feel it, a new part of you happens, or an old part is renewed, with surprise and delight at being what it is. All right, and this question is posed to us by James Dickey. Let us think not just what is poetry, but what is poetry? What is rap? What are song lyrics? Okay, even what is a story? Why have these things been around so long? When you really feel them, a new part of you happens, or an old part is renewed, with surprise and delight at being what it is. All right. So now let us go into our definitions for these four. Okay? First, metaphor. A metaphor is an implied comparison between two unlike things that have something important in common. The example is hope is a thing with feathers. Okay? Hope is a thing with feathers. Hope is not like feathers, but they are being compared. All right? An extended metaphor is a metaphor that continues for several stanzas or the length of the poem. Okay? So the example there is The Fog by Robert Frost. All right? Let's read that on our own. The Fog, F-O-G, by Robert Frost. And it has an extended metaphor. All right? Simile is also a comparison, but instead of just an implied comparison between two unlike things like metaphor, a simile is a comparison using like or as. Remember, simile has both an S and an L. And there's an L in like and an S in as. So a comparison using like or as between two unlike things that have something important in common. Okay, like or as, like or as, like or as. Example, my love's like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Alrighty? And personification, a device where inanimate objects are given human characteristics. So that's like saying, my phone yelled at me. Okay, your phone may make a loud noise, and it may seem like yelling, but it's not a person, so it can't yell. Another example, the eyes of the old house watch me as I pass by. All right, let's do a few more examples. One example is here in our book, and of course the book I'm using is the Expeditionary Learning. Now this is a piece of a poem, but in this piece of a poem, one of these figurative language examples are used. I want you guys to guess which one. While round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at our accursed lot. This is from If We Must Die by Claude McKay. Do you guys see a metaphor, a simile, or a personification. Since it's just a little piece of the poem, we can't tell if it's an extended metaphor. I'll read it one more time. While round us mark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at our accursed lot. Okay, that's the first thing I want you guys to check. The next one, ask yourself, is it a metaphor, a simile, or a personification for these, let's say, 3 poems? All right, this is from a book called Haiku, This Other World by Richard Wright. All right, and I'm reading haiku number 245, 246, 247. Remember, haiku are just short poems, so these are really super short. All right, first one, guess what's being used? Metaphor, simile, extended metaphor, or personification. 245. Harvesting over, the empty fields are yearning toward a gray sky. 246. In a murky dawn, the faint moon is sucking smoke out of chimney tops. 247. The wheat has been cut, and now a blue-gray mountain is haunting the lake. And 248, bonus. Harvesting over, the empty fields have been bought by the horizon. All right, these are all examples of, this is my Dora the Explorer pause so you guys can tell us the answer. These are all examples of personification. Remember, personification is when a non-human object does a human thing. Okay, so in the first one, the empty fields are yearning toward a gray sky. Fields don't really yearn. It's just plants and stuff, all right? 246, the faint moon is sucking smoke out of chimney tops. So as if the moon is smoking a cigar or something like that, okay? 247, the wheat has been cut and now a blue-gray mountain is haunting the lake. What word helps you to see that it is a personification? And now a blue-gray mountain is haunting the lake. Correct, haunting. Last one, I want you to pick the word as well. Harvesting over, the empty fields have been bought by the horizon. Bought. Fields, again. Empty fields don't buy things. They don't have money. There's no fields store. Okay? So, that is personification. Great. Now, the last thing is I want to give you guys your assignment for the week. Today is Sunday, and this is your assignment will be due on the 27th of April. So this is for the week, the 20th to the 27th. Your assignment is to read in Common Lit, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. We read this poem in class. It's by Tupac Shakur. And there are, you might know him as Tupac, just the number 2, P-A-C. There are some questions after, so read and then answer the questions. Also, I want you guys to be looking out for these 4 examples of figurative language. All right, metaphor, simile, extended metaphor, and personification. It's a very, very short poem, so go ahead and read it and then answer the questions, and then meet me here between 11:15 and 12 on Mondays and Wednesdays. That's when I'm going to have Zoom class. Cool? All right, go ahead and go into Dojo and you can get the link for that. Hope all is well. Hope you guys like the hat, and I'll see you next week. All right, till later. Peace.